Good evening. Tom Fiorelli, 1117 Church Street. I just wanted to say that I object to the curative amendment. As a landowner, Invenergy has been here since before 2013. They never once asked to go into the M2 zone. I mentioned this at the county planning meeting. They feel as though, and they share as though, their electric generation plant is so safe, they advertise it being, other ones being within hundreds of feet of other residences. So I don't know why they wouldn't check out where they're actually permitted first. The other thing I wanted to mention was that, Dr. Marvin Broder did craft the zoning ordinances in Jessup. Since February 1991, there's been 8 changes to the zoning ordinances. Not once did it ever mention adding an electric generation station to the M1A zone. And then finally, I'd like to say, as the reason that I object to this is that I was at the January 5th meeting when we first were being apprised of what was happening. And I think it was me that asked the question of Mr. Ewan if the facility can be seen from the borough. And that answer, as I remember it as it was 2 seconds ago, was no, sir. You will not see the facility from the borough. What did we see yesterday? What did we see yesterday? So I humbly ask my fellow residents and planning commission members to object and vote no. Thank you.
Jason 117 Center Street. I actually didn't plan to talk tonight, but I want to address a few things that have been said. And I want to start by addressing the comment about would we prefer windmills. I understand that Mr. Guida already approves this project based on statements he's made at previous meetings before he was a planning commission member. So I can understand why your perspective is what it is. For one, I do prefer windmills. I don't want windmills, but since they don't use 5 million gallons of water a day, emit the amount of toxins into the air that this plant does, dispense water into the river, yeah, I would rather windmills. I probably wouldn't want Invenergy's windmills based on the amount of lawsuits that there are against them for turbine propellers falling off and things like that, but I would prefer windmills. Another thing that was brought up here tonight by Mr. Guido was he thinks more people in the M2 would object to this proposal than in the current proposal. I think that's irrelevant. That's not for us to decide at this point. It's up to them to try to put that plant in the M2 and fight that battle there. We don't decide here tonight that, we think more people are not going to like it over there, so we're going to change our entire zoning ordinance and put it over here. That's not how this should be done. And lastly, Attorney Wilson had made the comment that he didn't think it was appropriate to ask for variances in the M2. And I don't think that's his job. I think that's your job. I think he's trying to do your job for you. You can ask for variances and you can be denied. You can say you don't think it's appropriate for a variance to happen, but it's not their side to decide that. It seems to me that they clearly wanted to be in the M1A all along, were not interested in being there, and are putting on this legal theatrics just to get what they want. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Janine Haviland, 407 4th Avenue. Thank you. I know it's late. Let's keep it short. I'm going to reiterate what my attorney, Don Miles, stated, and to say that I implore you to hire your own experts. I implore you to take the time on behalf of the Planning Commission, but on behalf of every resident here. That's why you're here, to help protect us. And I think it is integral that this curative amendment, you do not have enough information for this curative amendment. I said it at county planning, I'm going to say it again here tonight. You have options. You can hire your own attorney. You absolutely can hire your own, not only land development, but electric generated expert. And this is part of what we're going to do. And just to say, I am an objector. I wish I didn't have to step into this role. I wish there wasn't 21 of us that had to step into this, but we felt like we were getting run over. And we organized, and let me tell you this, we are beg borrowing every dime we can. We are accepting donations because we are looking to hire our own experts. And as Don stated, you don't have to take our word for it. We are the residents, we live here, we're property owners. But you don't have to take our whatever we say, and don't take whatever they say. Take it with a grain of salt. They have an agenda, maybe like we have an agenda. Go down the middle. Get your own. Hire your own. You do not have to, and if you are going to vote on this tonight, I am begging you, do not recommend changing this curative amendment. I do not grant them this, because once you do, you are opening up this whole valley. Interestingly enough, that County Planning Commission, two people, I considered that a win, by the way. It's very rare that you get the County Planning Commission to not only hold an evening meeting, but allow for the comment period to be extended and to listen to us. And two of them said, you know what? You change this, you're opening up the door. So before you do that, think about it. Think about what the ramifications are, not only for Jessup, but for Lackawanna County and for this entire valley. And I do want to say this. We all have to live here, and I know it's been tough lately. I do. But regardless of whatever position, although, yes, I hope you vote no. I hope you say, you know what, we don't have enough information. We want to hear the evidence. We want to hear the evidence from Don Miles and the 21 litigants who live, resign, and are affected by this. We want to hear from Invenergy. We want to hear from their experts. We want to hear from their attorneys. And then make a decision. Or guide counsel. That's your job as Planning Commission, to guide them. And I don't think you have enough to tell them how to go. Don't hang them out to dry, because they're under enough pressure. I know that. This has been tough. But I think yesterday's display, if it did anything for anyone, it said, this company ain't ready for this. I just don't. So please, gentlemen, take what I say with a grain of salt. Hear our attorney, hear the 21 residents, and please do not, if you are not going to ask for your own experts or attorney, vote no.
Island Avenue, Jessup. I just wanted you to put a face with the letter that I have given each of you on an article that I found on the internet called Effective Gas-Fired Power Plants on Small Towns. And I urge anyone who would like some information to go on and type that in, the effects of gas-fired plants on small towns, and you will be terrified with the information that you'll receive. Some of it even calls it like Toxtown, like in toxic, because the emissions and the pollution and the problems that it causes, right down to problems, the psychological problems for the residents, are listed in there. And I hear about smokestacks, about the stacks and steam and so on, and I'm curious as to acid rain, how that affects acid rain, because you read that in some articles. And I know here in town and in the valley there's so many people that plant gardens and flowers and have swimming pools. And where does this all go? I'm on Grassy Island Avenue. That is right over my head practically. And how does acid rain affect our vegetables, our children in the swimming pool? I mean, it gives all new meaning to don't put that pool water in your mouth kind of thing. So I'm very concerned about that as well. Also, it lists in this article that it's a falsehood that gas is clean. It says falsehoods because methane is a major constitute of natural gas. And we should all be concerned with that. And it's a wonderful article on the effects, everything from the environment. Do you know that it also affects the night sky, that the stars in the sky, you won't be able to see them as quick. It will be a whole different view from the mist and the steam that's affected, which in turn not only affects plants, it affects the animals that are nocturnal, and there's just so much information that needs to be considered. So I am just asking you as well to please consider very carefully, because there is so much that we are going to sacrifice.
Hello, my name is Brian Vegas.
One second, Frank.
Lynette, excuse me, did you say you handed out the letter? I didn't see it.
I didn't.
Do you, oh,
Council got one.
I did give it to the
oh,
planning.
excuse me,
Yes.
they're in the manila folders here, I didn't see them, thank you.
Okay, but you
Thank
know what, I don't think I have your name on one, so there you go.
Thank you very much.
My name is Brian Vegas. I'm from Troop, Pennsylvania, 524 North Street. I have a degree in chemical engineering from Penn State University. I'm currently working at a nuclear power plant in New Jersey, but I'm all for this power plant. Bring power plants to Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Hello, Jerry Pernella, 1204 Conlon Street. I actually didn't plan to speak tonight, but there was some stuff that was said tonight that I feel as though I need to comment on. I'm going to be brief because I'm not really feeling well. A couple things that were said. We keep talking about this Casey Highway, that's the buffer for Jessup. I don't know about anybody else, but I think the other side of the Casey Highway is also Jessup, and I think someday that will be developed. So I think we need to throw that comment out. It will infringe on somebody at some point. Invenergy says that they came here and they've researched and they want to be in Jessup. The fact of the matter is the location that they want to be in is a financial decision. It's a perfect storm for them. They get to hook up to an easy gas hookup, and they get to hook up to the power grid. Sometimes you can't have what you want, and I think this is the situation. It's really not the right spot for you to be in because of the impact that you have on the town. I'm also concerned about some of the comments that were given by Mr. Wilson, Attorney Wilson. He started talking about situations that negated the M2 zone. Two of those restrictions were the height and the setback, which actually are restrictions that are in all zones. So I'm concerned that he's twisting words to get you and the rest of the decision makers to think that the situation is more worth ruling in their favor. The last point that I want to make is in the M2 zone, someone mentioned that there was one parcel, one part of the M2 zone that was 89 acres. I think you're only looking for 85 acres in the M1A zone, and 89 acres would be enough. I do understand that they're occupied, right? But the cost of doing business sometimes is extraordinary, and that's why I say Jessup might not be the right location. They may have to buy property off of people, you know, if necessary, the whole 89 acres. And yes, I realize it may not be possible because people don't want to sell it, but there is 89 acres zoned for this type of facility. And you can't have it. But you need to consider the fact before we change the zoning to allow them in the M1A. The thing that I keep thinking is it's not developed now, but if you're saying that they can't go into the M2 because there's no land available, at one time there was land available. And if we look into the future, it's the opposite end of that argument. If we look into the future, that M1A zone is going to be occupied. So you can't look at one end of the argument without looking at the other end of the argument. This, I keep saying it, this is not the right location for this plant on many fronts, but if we're looking at it from the curative amendment front this evening, it's not right. So I urge you to either vote no tonight or to delay your vote so that you can get the expert opinion. I'm just very concerned that words and facts are being twisted tonight. to get you to make a decision that's not right for this community. Thank you.
Mr. Perini, you still there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Yep, I'm here.
Hello.
In fact, Rick, I put it on mute just so I could listen better.
Okay. I can see you. I'm sorry, ma'am. Go
All
ahead.
right. My name is Emily Palermo, and I am a resident of Jessup for the past 30 years. I live on Grassy Island Avenue, adjacent to the ball field and approximately 3/4 of a mile away from the proposed highway in Renergy site. I wish to make it perfectly clear that I am opposed to changing the zoning, as Invenergy has asked. Initially, I really didn't care about Invenergy's plans until I became aware that the plant planned to dump wastewater into one, if not many, of our local creeks. This awakened my recollection regarding another similar situation in Hinckley, Southern California. The Hinckley compressor station, which included cooling towers, built in 1952 as part of a natural gas pipeline. Between 1952 and 1966, the Pacific Gas and Electric Company in California used hexavalent chromium to fight corrosion in the cooling towers. The wastewater dissolved the hexavalent chromium from the cooling towers and was discharged to unlined ponds at the site. Some of the wastewater initially and finally found its way into the groundwater, affecting an area near the plant. PG&E came to residents' attention when they noticed a larger than normal cancer rate among the townspeople. The hexavalent chromium was identified as a carcinogen to prevent rust in the machinery. Residents of Hinckley filed a class action suit against PG&E, won, and were awarded. And the case was settled in 1966 for over $300 million, which proved the point of the residents in the class action suit regarding the cancer. Again, I want to emphasize that wastewater from Invenergy's proposed site would be discharged into our creeks. Does this sound familiar? By its own admission, Invenergy chose Jessup because of the 80 acres they applied for, meaning that it will be one of the state's largest natural gas power plants and having minimal effects on local electrical rates, positive or negative. The facility's air quality permit will likely require controls. Still, Invenergy admit those controls won't completely eliminate emissions of nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, sulfur dioxide, fine particles, and sulfuric acid. Invenergy chose Jessup because of its proximity to natural gas sources and gas pipelines running through neighboring counties. Sound familiar? In summary, I want to again repeat clearly that I'm opposed to Invenergy's plan to build a power plant within a mile of a daycare center, ballpark complex, and my home. Every generation has striven to leave the world a better place for their children and grandchildren and generations to come, not to pollute our town with chemicals that will impact negatively on our children, our grandchildren, generations to come, on their environment, health, and well-being. Thank you. Please vote